In my last beer review, I said there was time for one more dark beer before summer hit. Well, it turns out I lied. Hello and welcome back to the channel, and yes, that's right, we are going for another dark beer despite the fact the temps are picking up because frankly, well, I just love dark beer and I can't really get enough, and I've still got a few more in my fridge that I hadn't really remembered about. So yeah, this is one of them. This is Sam Smith's The Famous Taddy Porter coming in at 5%. As with all Sam Smith's beers, massive 500ml bottle. I say as all, with the exception of things like the Impy Stout, but all of their regular range anyway. This apparently, the Samuel Smith's Old Brewery Tadcaster, the famous Taddy Porter, that's a mouthful and a half, but Sam Smith's Taddy Porter for short, has been pretty highly recommended by a lot of reviewers over the years. And to be honest, for some reason, I've just never tried it. I've had it for a while now and it just keeps sitting there. I don't know why. I'm sure it's fantastic, and today we're going to find out. Just before we break into it though, a quick look at the bottle. It comes in, well, as I said, this glorious 500ml bottle, very Sam Smith, kind of dark and brooding label there. That's it is a good looking thing. It looks classic, I think is the way to describe it. They've even gone as far as putting some pictures on the back there, which I'll be honest, that looks like a web page from the early 2000s, but it is what it is. They like their old school traits to Sam Smith's, and well, that doesn't always do them well, but we'll talk about that a bit later. For this review, I have decided that it's going to go into a German glass, not Stein, because that's not the right word, but a German drinking tankard. I don't know why, but I just feel like the handle with the dark beer just is going to work. So that's what we're going with today. You can tell me I'm wrong if you want, I probably am, but I just fancy it, so that's what we're going with. Lovely looking as it comes out. Nice, dark, rich. It looks like a properly dark porter, this one. Unlike the last one we reviewed. It was very nice though. Oh no, it's definitely a few bits of light bleeding through there. Not a bad looking thing though. In the glass then, almost pitch black. There's a bit of red bleeding through right at the bottom there, but it's really only just a sliver. Nice, big, voluminous kind of tan head on it. It does look the business. So, the aromas. Distinct metallic mineral, reminding me of kind of old school Guinness, like before the original became a bit bad. It's roasty, toasty, super mineral heavy. The iron, it's the iron thing, the metallic note. It's intended in this beer, and I'll be honest, it's coming across an absolute treat. Touches of old school British hops, a bit of Fuggles perhaps, something funky and just not overwhelming to the palate, or the aroma anyway. It's got some nice caramel flicks. It's not particularly fruity, but it feels like a proper straight up porter, and those are words that, to be honest, are just music to my ears because that is a style that I absolutely adore. So let's get into it, shall we? Cheers. This is going to make what I have to say about the current state of Sam Smith's really difficult because that is fantastic. Now, this part of the video is all about the beer, and it will remain all about the beer. We can touch on the other stuff later, as I said, but that is nice, big, rich, chocolatey, bit of coffee, tiny bit of licorice. It's doing the full works. It's almost stout worthy really, rather than a porter. Yes, it's not quite as thick, but flavour wise it is all absolutely there. Because it's very warm in here, I poured this a bit below the recommended serving temperature, which I can see on the back of the bottle here is 13 degrees Celsius or 55 Fahrenheit. They put it in both. But what that really means is that it's even more impressive because as beer warms, the flavours tend to amplify. The fact that this is probably sat at 8-10 degrees, yeah, it's really gonna start to build and build and build. But already I can tell you, it is absolutely lovely. Second sip already, just from being open, just from warming that tiny bit, it feels richer again. It's more amplified, bit of a cereal note coming through, big, rich, just, yeah, chocolatey coffee deliciousness, really. It's not a coffee flavoured thing. It's just not proper coffee intense, but just a few of those roasty notes that are reminiscent of a robust espresso are sitting around in there. Let's get to it then. Top to bottom taste test so you can understand what I'm waffling on about right on the tip of the tongue. light roast, big bit of sweetness actually. I'm going to assume it's from the malt, but the delivery of it does remind me of a lactose beer. I don't think it is. I'm pretty sure this is vegan friendly, so it certainly won't be, but it's got that slightly rich, slick sweetness about it, and I'm pretty sure it's not an additive either because, well, I hate them and that. It feels authentic, maybe not as intense as a proper lactose beer would, but maybe there's some oats in there or something like that just to give it that bit of extra mouthfeel, and yeah, it's coming across absolutely sublime. Onto the first third of the tongue. Bitterness is starting to pick up, a bit of fruitiness as well. There wasn't any on the aroma, but there is a hint of it in the flavour of this thing. It's getting a bit more licoricey, kind of, you know, where dark fruit meets licorice. It's not quite as intense as proper licorice, and not quite as bitter, but it's not quite as easygoing as just the fruits on their own. It's kind of somewhere in the middle of the two. Very nice though. Sets it up to be a proper, well, just a proper beer, and that's the phrase I don't like using really, because all beer really is proper beer, but old school. It's got bitterness, it's got hop, it's doing the core characteristics is really what I mean. It's the same thing that we rave on about German lagers being just a good example of a proper original style. This is doing exactly the same for its style. So anyway, yes, over onto the mid palate. Most of the flavour dies down at that point. You do start to get though a load of that mineral quality that I was talking about on the aroma, a bit of a metallic twang. It's not too intense though, it's just soft there, sat on the top. Water profile comes through. They brew this in the old Yorkshire slab stone fermenter things, which is something quite unique to Sam Smith's in this day and age, and I suspect a lot of it comes from that, and the fact that I think it's well drawn water from a well that collapsed, and they have to bucket it down from like, I don't know, 17 meters or something. It's, yeah, you can tell there's a serious water profile in here. I'm not sure it would suit every beer, but in this it is absolutely fantastic. Then onto the back of the tongue. Rich, roasty, proper coffee, dark chocolate. That's where the real prickliness of this beer comes in. The bitterness is there still, it's come back again, but it's just kind of, it matches the flavour profile. You know, robust coffee's a bit bitter, dark chocolate's a bit bitter. This beer at that point is a bit bitter, and it all just makes perfect sense. I'm going to come back to a point in a minute about imperial stouts once we finish this, because I think it's going to be quite interesting. But anyway, on to the aftertaste. Dry, bitter, roasty, sweeter coffee note, licorice comes back a little bit, and you're left with this cereal quality, which is something again that we talk a lot about in German beers, not so much the British ones anymore. And it's there, and it's kind of, I'll be honest, it tastes a bit like shredded wheat, but not in a bad way. Like, it's just got this nice all grain, full, proper whole mealy thing going on, but it's definitely cereal based rather than just, say, a bread. It sits there, bit of sweetness to finish it off. Absolutely fantastic. Back to the point I was going to make about imperial stouts. Now, most of the time you get imperial stouts when they're not filled with peanut butter, marshmallows and all the rest of that jazz. They're good sometimes, but not always necessary. But when you get a straight up imperial stout, for me at least, I'll sit there and I'll sip it and I go, I can see the relationship with a base stout or porter, but everything feels overly amped up somehow. Like, it's just not too much, but it's just like I wanted to see a lot of flavour, but maybe not all of that flavour all at once, because I can't really appreciate all of it at the same time. Everyone's palate's different. Some people will be able to. I, for one, sometimes can't so well. But this is delivering way more flavour than a lot of other stouts and porters at 5% odd. It is a bang on 5%. I can name a few, but yeah, for the most part, people aren't putting as much flavour in this. If you put this side to side with their imperial stout, I think you'll find, even though it's only a porter, that you can see the mirror, the reflection, just the amped up version of a lot of the flavours that are in this in that imperial stout. It just makes sense. And if, like me, sometimes you go, I want a really intense stout, but you know, you don't want the full impy, dare I say it, this is cutting pretty close at only 5%, which is crazy to say. That's probably also a little bit of a reflection on current trends, because Imperial Stouts have been pretty popular now for quite a few years. We're starting to see the resurgence of, well, easy drinking stouts, so Guinness clones in effect. And I'm all for it. I like dark beer in all its forms, but sometimes I want something in the middle, and that does seem to be missing from a lot of our shelves at the minute, but this absolutely nails it. Right then, I've been praising this beer the whole time now, and it is absolutely fantastic. But there is an issue. And that issue is, well, the modern Sam Smith's has some problems, let's say. Now, this is, I'm just going to say speculatively, because this is stuff I've heard from other people, not from direct sources, but it's been well documented. Apparently they don't treat the staff very well in their pubs. Their pubs have got a bunch of arcane laws, which that is true, because I've been to one. We can talk about that in a minute as well. But there's always that issue. We sit here and go, we're not reviewing Brewdog beers, not interested in Brewdog because the beer's bad and they don't treat the staff very well. Well, here's difficult because allegedly they don't treat the staff very well. We have to use the word allegedly. Allegedly Brewdog don't treat the staff very well. Correction. You get the idea. But the beer here is absolutely sublime. So that's one thing. But let's talk about the slightly arcane pub logic a minute. They say they want, a old school pub atmosphere, which is absolutely fine. It's their building, their property, their business. They can do what they want. And it's no phones, no swearing, no all sorts of stuff, basically. And whilst that can lead to a nice environment, and I know other pubs that have similar rules and they're actually very good, it didn't feel like that in the Sam Smiths that I went to recently, and it felt like basically the staff were watching you to do something wrong so they could tell you off for it, and just it felt like drinking beer whilst you were at school but you were allowed to drink the beer is the best descriptor I could give for it. It was just a little bit odd. They don't want you to use your phone, but if you whip out your phone to pay for your beer, they'll more than happily accept Apple Pay as well, which I thought was just, stick to your rules or don't, right? Like, that just, we're happy for you to use your phone if you're giving us money, but no other reason. And that's, I don't like that as a bit of a juxtaposition of a business policy. But anyway, it is what it is. The beer itself is fantastic. Hopefully whatever's going on in the upper echelons of their management gets sorted at some point and we can go back to loving them properly. I can recommend that you buy this beer for the beer. The fact that the money goes, it's difficult, but it really is that good. So I'm going to have to say, yes, go and do it, because this is absolutely fantastic. And that really is all I've got to say about it. So as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already, subscribe if you will be so kind. And I'll catch you next time. Cheers.